So random to circle back around after an
This
entire.
is amazing. I love it, Gig. It's so good to see you again because it's been quite a journey since the last time we met.
That's right. That's right. And this time, the entire world get to see Takeout Girl.
Takeout Girl, right.
True. And it's super excited about it.
Well, let's talk about the movie. Sorry for repeated questions, but you know how these press things actually go. So, Hedy, tell us where the original story came from for Takeout Girl for us.
The story came from, well, to be frank, unhappier times in my life, less happy times in my life. I blended my family background. You know, my family ran Chinese restaurants in the Bay Area for pretty much all my life. And I've been in LA for almost, a decade now by myself. So I just kind of blend the two realities together. And when I met Hisonni started to help me amplify everything. We wrote it, adjust stuff. And here we are, Gig. Here we are, across the finish line.
And just to let people know, the family business is a Chinese restaurant, not delivery.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. Whatever you just said. Yep.
That's right. Hissonni, hey, tell us about your approach towards a Takeout Girl for us.
My approach for Takeout Girl, I know Hedy came to me with an amazing premise for a film, but it wasn't until I met her and got a feel for her personality that I realized how unique and interesting she was. So I knew I had to make a film about her unique personality. She gave me the first draft, and the biggest thing that was missing was more scenes with her. So I immediately went to work adding more of her into it. And while I was writing the film, I had a major realization, two of them actually. One was that Hedy and I were a lot more alike in our backgrounds and what we wanted from life and who we cared about in our lives. So it became a lot easier to write for this character and for this situation. But also, there were some glaring weaknesses in my understanding of the Asian American culture here in America. I needed to do some work. I needed to meet Hedy's mom. I needed to consult with Hedy as much as possible, consult with my cast members of Asian American descent, and just do my research. I had to check my biases at the door as well, because, whenever you get tired or exhausted, you lean upon old habits. And for me, my old habits were everything's about me. Everything's about my experience. And that would have diluted some of the authenticity of the story. So I had to stay on point. I had to stay focused, and I had to stay diligent in making sure that this movie would connect with Asian Americans too, or mostly.
That actually brings up a very interesting subject, just because of what's going on this year. Even though we talked about this last year about Asian American films, in entertainment, and there's not a lot of them. And Hedy, let's start with you, because obviously being an Asian American and this film coming out coincidentally Asian American month. I mean, talk about all that.
Yeah, it's I think this film is very important for our culture in America, because there's such little representation of Asians in Hollywood and film. When other people see us sporadically sprinkled somewhere in cinema, they tend to see whatever they see and think that all Asians are like that, because they don't, and that's just because they don't know, and I'm hoping that Takeout Girl could add another texture to our narrative, because I feel like Crazy Rich Asians, that's great. I love that movie. I enjoy that movie. But it's not necessarily reflective of our experiences here. I grew up with many immigrants and refugees in the Bay Area, so I hope this movie can just kind of start adding to the representations, to show the different colors, that we're not a monolith, you know, and to show that we're really just like everybody else here, you know.
Hey, Hedy, when you wrote the story, did you always intended yourself to be the star, to play Tera?
Yeah, yes, and then later no, and then Hisonni was like, "You should," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, you're right. All right, I'll do it." Because you know, it's, you know, before Hisonni, I was already trying to get this made, and I just went through the ringer, and it was a lot of stress, a lot of. And by the time I got to Hisonni and I saw how great Hisonni's, you know, like he just knew a lot of people, like incredible actors like Ski, Carr, and Teddy Garces. I was like, you know, Hisonni, if you could find another Asian girl who has a bigger name than me, a celebrity or whatever, who could just pull this off better than me, do it, because Takeout Girl is probably the first and last thing I'm ever going to do in Hollywood. And I want to give my baby the best chance it has to do its thing, you know.
It didn't go well. There were a lot of actresses that tried for her role, even though I didn't ask them to. They were supposed to read for the cousin, and they were like, I'm just going to read for the lead instead. And I had to show Hedy and be like, this is why you have to do this. Because it was like this very like, it was like Mandy Moore trying to act like Nicki Minaj, and it just wasn't working out. It read as false. It read as very bubblegum in most people's, and that just wasn't the character. She genuinely felt one of a kind. And I was like, in my head, I'm like, wait a second, I kind of signed on to make a movie about this part of you. So if I lose that, like I don't have half of my movie. And I think when you watch it, you understand what I'm talking about.
Absolutely, because you know, Tera, the character itself is a very complex character, and knowing that you wrote the story and you're playing the character, how much of the real you is into Tera?
There were definitely parts of the movie where I was reliving, you know, certain emotions and stuff. But there were also some parts because, like I said, there's a collaboration between Hisonni and I. And Hisonni also, you know, wrote different scenes that, like, for example, the college scene, that was never in the original script, the college scene. And so that was, you know, a new thing for me to try. And under his direction, I was able to bring out not just the anger and the pain that I knew, but also, you know, the joy and just different nuances, you know, because Tera is not just rough and tough all the time. You know, nobody is just one note or two notes all the time. And part of being authentic was to really show all the colors, you know what I'm saying? Even thugs cry. So
Hisonni, let's talk about your filming process here, because this story is basically Los Angeles, but you didn't even film in Los Angeles. You pulled a switcheroo on us. Talk about that decision, because Las Vegas is your home, right? That's why you wanted to do that.
I lived in Southern California. I lived in the Inland Empire when I met Hedy, and then I moved to Las Vegas because I wanted to stretch my dollar further just in my life. I wanted to have a better quality of life. I wanted to have a little bit more fun. And the film just kind of, I realized that the film could benefit from being shot here too. You know the old adage, if you can have good, cheap, or fast, pick two. Well, I didn't have a budget, so it had to be cheap. And I wanted it to be good, so I made it slow. And believe it or not, making a film in Los Angeles, the one thing you feel like you don't have is time. Like you don't have time to even sit in a parking spot in LA long enough to scout a location, let alone drive around LA endlessly looking for locations that might pop and that might actually let you shoot there and that you can afford. But in Las Vegas, I just spent maybe weeks driving in circles looking for what I thought would work. And after a while, it almost felt like there was nothing I couldn't find if I just looked long enough. It almost felt like the amount of looking had an expiration point, and then all of a sudden, boom, the location would jump out at me like three-dimensionally. And I just knew it was the perfect location for what we wanted to do, for how long we had to be there, for how many people had to be there. It had bathrooms, it had power. We could get the job done. Vegas provided everything we needed for the budget we had.
That is great. Then riddle me this, Hissonni.
Mhm.
For a movie about a girl who works at a Chinese restaurant, where's the food?
You're the first person. Why?
I knew it. I was
I
waiting
knew
for that
somebody-
question. I knew I was waiting for that. Told you, Sonny. Told you.
Okay, so I wanted to have more food in it, but I also didn't, because a lot of films that take place in a restaurant, they start to become very food porny, where it's just like always, like every transitional shot is someone unveiling beautiful food, and I didn't want to get caught up in that trope. But also, I just was like, you know what, I don't really care too much about this food. Like, I realized it could use a little bit more food, but what can you do? Next time, right? Takeout Girl 2.
Now, Hedy, for yourself, you know, one of the things that that's actually delightful about playing your character is that she's serious, but there's also some humorous times, moments in the film. And one of the things that was pretty humorous was you taking photos of your clients through this montage. Could you talk about going through the different outfits and how you raise your phone constantly, just doing this back and forth?
Right. Yeah, I remember that day, you know, Hisonni was explaining the shot to me, and I'm like, all right, I got all my freaking outfits, you know, here I am. And then I just had to make little stories in my head. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, look, we all love making money, but sometimes we just tired. We're just like, damn, like, all right, let me get this picture. All right, man, he looked like a mess, man. Or I didn't like that person, but I finished the job, you know? It's that type of feeling that was, you know, those are the thoughts that were going through my head. And yeah, I'm glad people found it humorous, because Hisonni put it together really well.
Of course, one of the things that's part of your signature outfit is the hat. Talk about the hat. Why you kept on insisting the hat to be in the movie?
I didn't. Did I insist, Hisonni? I didn't insist. Well, okay. So I told Hisonni, like, Hisonni knew, like, every time he met me, I'm in a hat, right? And I was like, well, you know, I guess, you know, like, I told him, like, you know, when I go about my business, most of the time, there's a reason why I wear a hat is because I want to be low key. You know, I want to be low key. And I'm explaining, because, you know, we talk. When we were rewriting the script together, we spent 4 hours every day just talking. And he's telling me about his life. I'm telling him about my life. And Hisonni was just like, oh yeah, that would be like your superhero cape. And I'm like, what? Huh? Are you sure? Like a whole movie with a girl in her hat? You think that's gonna sell? He was like, yeah, it's good. I mean, we're gonna have moments where you take it off, but that's when you're comfortable, or you're with people you're comfortable with, showing your, like, you know, vulnerability. But when you out about in the world doing your business, we're gonna keep you in the hat, just like real life. I'm like, maybe it sounds good to me. Yeah, it sounds good. So yeah, I was fine with it. There was 2 scenes where the hat gave me really ugly hat hair, and I had to, like, take off my hat too. So, you know, other than that, I like the hat.
And where did the hats come from? Is that part of your collection, or did you specially order?
It's from my friend's line, Isaiah. He has a clothing brand called Lane Carvers. And so we asked for permission for him to use this hat, and he was like, yeah. And then, because then I didn't want to have a solid black cap, you know, like, you know, usually in movies, we're not supposed to have logos, especially when you have no money. And so I was like, you know, well, I have this hat, you know, and it's Isaiah's company, Lane Carver's, like, so I'm pretty sure, you know, everything should be cleared once he gives us permission. And I double checked with Hisonni, and it was great. And it added to the story, because on the caps, one of the caps, it says never compromise, you know, and so it just, again, it amplifies the themes in the movie.
That is terrific. Hisonni, of course, we want to address, you know, the rest of the cast in this film, because because they're perfect, especially the villains, which is quite diverse of all type of villains, all in part of the same gang. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, most of the actors in this film are good friends of mine. Have been and frequent collaborators. Lalo was played by Ski Car, which Hedy and I know that guy is just bigger than life all the time. Like his wardrobe's amazing. He's about 6'3", I think. The guy used to be one of the lead dancers for Soul Train back in the day, and he has a speech pattern that is just so unique. Like he has lingo he uses that only he understands, but you act like you know what he's talking about just so you don't feel like a square. Like you have to put a guy like that in a movie, like, because he's amazing. J. Teddy Garces played Hector, and the thing I love about working with J. Teddy is that he adds humanity to every role he plays. You could cast him as the most low down, despicable character in the world, and he's going to find a way to make you love that character. That was also the case with Nate. We cast Dejan Talton, who was a series regular on the TV show Glee, and I think he's on How to Get Away with Murder now. The guy is just lovable. He's lovable, and he has this earthy sort of like likability that you just can't get over. Lizette Hunter was our makeup artist who jumped into a role and played Chewie, which was supposed to be a guy because we lost that character last minute, and she ended up being the most intimidating of Lalo's crew. She ended up being like his muscle, and I had no idea she had that in her. But it was like, you ever watch Looney Tunes where you look at where like Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck are really hungry and they look at each other and somebody turns into like a chicken dinner? That's how it was when I looked at her when we lost that role, and I was like, you could do this. And she just became the character. And it just went that way with everybody. Like Lena Yi also, who played the mother, Wavy. She was by far the hardest to find, and I found her through traditional means, but I can't tell you how talented she is because she doesn't speak Cantonese. She speaks Mandarin, but she learned Cantonese for the film. She doesn't speak Spanish. She learned it for the film. She doesn't have a back problem. She researched it and kind of embodied the posture that was needed. So for a no budget film to have all of these things come together like that, I just can't, it seems like a once in a lifetime sort of thing. I feel really blessed about it.
That is beautiful. Well, let me ask one more question about the film. I don't know if you guys have been asked before, but whose car is that you used throughout the entire film? Is that yours, Hisonni?
Yeah. Yes, it's the first car I bought when I moved to LA, and the car, it gained all of that character because every time someone hit it in LA and it still drove, I wouldn't get the insurance money and put it back into the car. I would buy a camera or a lens or a light so that I could make movies whenever I wanted, and my car would just stay hanging by a thread essentially. And when Takeout Girl came up, I mean, technically that car has been in every film I've ever made because it's just as much a character as any of the actors, basically. It just has this look that says like it's been through hell and back. So I miss that car. It's gone now, but I retired it.
Okay, I was afraid like we're gonna have to set up a GoFundMe page for
you still can if you want, because I'm traumatized from driving it. I set it up for my therapy bills.
Excellent. Well, let me leave with one last question, because it's been nearly over a year since we all talked, and I want to know is how are you two staying sane and creative during this entire time?
Well, I'm an introvert, so this whole lockdown, it just really gave me more time to just reflect, and that's how I was started to help with my friends. The next one of the stories I'm developing, the folklore based on from the Gullah culture, like during the lockdown, I just created. And Hissonni and I, we were thinking about ideas for the prequel to Takeout Girl. We were developing that during lockdown, you know. So lockdown for me, on a personal level, it was fine. But when it came to the movie, we as a team, of course, we're like, dang, like what did we, you know, what were the opportunities that did we lose because of a pandemic? You know, could we have had a theatrical release for Takeout Girl and now we can't, you know? So these are, when it comes to business, yes, you know, you do wonder what was lost.
I think for me, it's been tough to stay creative and to stay optimistic. But it's opportunities like this that kind of keep me going. The festivals that did happen and that did select us, they're long gone. But as I push forward in my career and I hit roadblocks and tough things, I remember who had my back, who believed in me, and the encouragement they gave me. They wouldn't do that if I was heading in the wrong direction. So I forged ahead. Like writers like yourself, platforms like Latino Review, like whenever I interact with you guys, it always comes up later on and reminds me why I need to keep going, because we all get low. And with the pandemic, the cup was emptied way, way lower than normal. And then the film industry started to shit on me. Crap on me. And normally I'm able to make it through because I just have that extra resilience. But the pandemic wore at that. And to be honest, the only thing that refilled my cup was stuff like this. So I appreciate you.
Hey, not a problem, not a problem. Well, hey, thank you for speaking with me about Takeout Girl again. So can't wait till the next time, and don't be strangers, all right?
Well, can't wait to come back.
Thank you so much, Gig. Thank you.
Thank you. Next time.